Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
Every morning, the rising sun brings with it rays of light and hope in people's lives. The elimination of darkness, quite literally, is a continuous and cyclical process. But this great ball of fire is now also being harnessed as a source of energy that can be stored, reproduced, and distributed. Solar energy is a phenomena that energy producers across the world are betting their money on as fossils begin to deplete. In India, almost 70% of the total power generated is thermal, almost all of which is coal-driven. Not only does that add pressure on the scarce resource, but also adversely affects the environment. In 2014, Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced the very ambitious plan of generating 100 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2022. He further revised the target to 175 gigawatts in Jan 2015, with 100 gigawatts alone coming from solar power. The announcement came at a time when India's total solar energy capacity stood at a mere 3 gigawatts.
India is now at the forefront of driving change and adoption in solar. That itself is a very big step and a very important step for the world. So all countries, 196 if I'm right, countries around the equator with the highest insolation with respect to the sun are going to be privy to latest technologies, latest developments, policy and sharing of ideas and all of that, which will help the advent of solar in all the developing and underdeveloped countries also.
The big shift on solar energy will not only provide energy security, but will also help address the issue of universal energy access for a large number of Indians. Off-grid solar plants are likely to provide relief to 300 million Indians who currently rely on an unstable grid connection for electricity. Considering India receives ample sunlight for an average of 300 days every year, 100 gigawatts of installed solar capacity will mean that 9% of India's electricity requirement could be met by solar power compared to the current figure of just 0.5%. To give further impetus to the solar energy sector, the government launched the Pradhan Mantri Yojana for augmenting solar manufacturing, or the Prayas initiative, in a bid to boost India's photovoltaic production capacity that could help create an export industry. The private sector is as much a beneficiary as is the common man. Vikram Solar is one such shining example. This Kolkata-based company, with a presence across 5 continents, is India's leading PV module manufacturer and a comprehensive EPC solutions provider. Set up more than a decade ago, Vikram Solar has already installed and commissioned more than 130 megawatts of solar projects across 22 states in India, making it one of the leading photovoltaic module manufacturer in the country. The journey to become a Tier 1 photovoltaic module manufacturer is no easy task, and Vikram Solar has managed to stay ahead of the curve by betting big on research and development and collaborating with leading laboratories across the globe. A few kilometers from Kolkata, in the Special Economic Zone, Falta, stands the state-of-the-art manufacturing facility that serves as the backbone of Vikram Solar. Home to some of the latest machines from Germany, Switzerland, Japan and the United States, this mammoth production hub has an annual photovoltaic module production capacity of 500 megawatts and will be further expanded to 2 gigawatts by December 2019.
The module is carried from the beginning till the end of the line through a conveyorized system. This ensures that you handle the modules minimally. And when human beings do not touch the modules or the cell, then the defects or the defects in the modules are reduced drastically.
On the other side of the break, we will visit some of the marquee projects undertaken by Vikram Solar in helping make India's solar energy dreams a reality. Harnessing the power of the sun, Vikram Solar is creating history in making India's solar energy vision a reality. With full backward and forward integration, Vikram Solar controls all aspects from installation to distribution of solar photovoltaic modules. The company has been able to be part of some marquee solar projects in India, including a 40 megawatt ground-mounted installation in Kachalia in Madhya Pradesh, a 10 kilowatt floating solar power installation in Rajarhat in Kolkata. This is the first of its kind in India. A 100 kilowatt installation at the Kochi International Airport in Kerala. In fact, the biggest brand ambassadors for Vikram Solar are its partners who collaborated on various projects. For instance, IL&FS partnered with Vikram Solar for a 40 megawatt plant in Kachalia in Madhya Pradesh, and it was an immense success.
We won a project under the JNSM scheme to put up a 40 megawatt solar project with the domestic content. That means domestically produced modules in a place called Agar in MP. We scouted around many suppliers and finally found Vikram Solar to be most appropriate. Initially there was some apprehension we had because we never dealt with them in the past, but I had a feeling that they'll do a good job, and I think in retrospect I think it was a good decision. Vikram Solar has been a very professional company to deal with, very supportive, very cooperative, and at times we actually got stuck on issues like land, and I never found Vikram Solar to be complaining in their attitude. They were very supportive, and we did the project well on time, and I must say today it is the best performing asset in the entire MP as per the India Infrastructure Report.
Vikram Solar's expertise in solar PH photovoltaic module manufacturing has helped it become a true example of Make in India. A true testimony to India's ingenuity, the power of innovation, and a possible leadership position in solar energy.
It is very complex in the power sector scenario. We have thermal, we have gas, we have hydro, we have biomass, we have distribution companies who are about 31 to 33 distribution companies who take their own decisions in buying power, and there's a very complex situation compared to many other countries. So I think the need to basically make the power affordable, it being a social economy, and the tariff is a social tariff structure that we adopt in India, where the low-end consumers pay lower. So there's every need to have not only solar power, a clean power, but also affordable power.
On the other side of this break, we will get you some more insights on solar energy and its prospects in India with the man at the helm of Vikram Solar, Gyanesh Chaudhary, in conversation with CNBC TV18. Keep watching. Taking forward the legacy of the 4-decade-old Vikram Group, Vikram Solar was incorporated in 2006 to diversify into solar energy. Taking the mantle forward is the young and dynamic Gyanesh Chaudhary, the CEO and Managing Director. A multifaceted professional with an education resume comprising the University of Wales, University of Boston, and Harvard Business School, this scion of the Vikram Group is putting his money where his mouth is. CNBC TV18's Shashwat DC caught up with him to understand the power dynamics of the solar energy sector.
So, starting off, it's been almost a decade now, a decade and more since Vikram Solar has been around. How do you see the solar story in India has evolved over this period, and especially what has been the challenges and milestones?
Well, if you see where we started out, between 2006 and 2010, we had about 18 megawatt. That is literally initial startup kind of a thing. And then from 10, in 2010, the erstwhile Prime Minister Manmohan Singh ji, he announced the Jawaharlal Nehru Solar Scheme, and that's where the real focus on solar started. The initial announcement was for 22 gigawatt in 5 years, and then in 15 when Prime Minister Modi came in and he said that this is too small a target, we should increase that to 100 gigawatt. So the whole landscape has moved phenomenally since.
Yes. And how from your perspective, the solar power uptake with a lot of the countries, there's a global turmoil, talk of economic slowdown. Has that really impacted the solar, power uptake or adoption of solar?
I think you have to look at the whole energy landscape in general. I think what has happened is that fossil fuel and climate change and greenhouse effect, all of this has, these discussions have made a very big impact in the geopolitical scenario globally, and the leaders have started to take notice of the fact that there is a lot of work that needs to be done. Basis that, I think the energy usage shift has begun to happen. When we were starting out with our solar journey back in 2006-7, we used to hear that there's going to be so much installation or this many gigawatts in 2020 and 2025. We have surpassed those numbers already in 2015-16. So we see that the energy shift has happened. People have adopted solar in a big way. Countries have adopted, policies have been formed accordingly. So there is that itself is a very promising scenario. So we hope to achieve the 2050 targets by 2020-30, like that.
More than 300 million Indians still don't have access to power, electricity, or regular power usage.
Right.
Given that fact, do you really think off-grid power can plug that hole and provide them a stable source of energy?
So there's definitely a large part of India which is still not connected. Although we hear that 90% is on the grid, and sometimes we get satisfied with that. But the reality is that a lot of times they have blackout periods during the day or intraday, which is challenging. I think more than anything else now, India is moving towards being a developed nation, and power is a basic necessity. To be able to ensure consistent perennial power supply, solar can play a very good role. So there are a lot of policies that are being discussed, and some of them have also been implemented and are at a nascent stage. But the government of India is driven by with a drive from the MNRE. There's a lot of new things coming up, and very, very encouraging for microgrid and off-grid, for rural electrification.
Yeah, and one of the big things is about the India's ambitious plan for 100 gigawatts by 2022. Given the fact that we are, right now the installed base is around 8.7 gigawatts, do you really think it's a ambitious or an achievable target?
So it's ambitious. It's a lot to happen in a short time, but it's definitely powerful. I think the message is clear that renewable energy, especially solar power, is here to stay. I think Prime Minister Modi has set a target of 175 gigawatt, out of which 100 is solar. So we are driving both the agendas parallelly, and these are formidable targets. But yet, with the push from the government and the activities that are being taken up at various levels of government and industry and academia, I feel that we can come very close to that.
Given the fact that India is renowned for its services and IT segment, manufacturing is certainly not considered to be one of our strengths. So how did Vikram Solar? It must have been a great challenge to even imagine a solar manufacturing thing in India. How did that come about, and what are the specific challenges that you faced?
So I think as a group we are mainly into manufacturing of various things. I think engineering, textiles, a lot of within textiles, a lot of different verticals. So manufacturing comes easy. I mean, you can say that it's a part of the DNA. So when the opportunity came to do something in renewables and solar, I personally had a lot on my plate already. So it was my father who insisted that we must look at this, and we must see whether we can harness this opportunity into a viable business.
Basically speaking, how does manufacturing in India help the story? In terms of cost or employment, how can it really help?
See, it always helps to not depend on countries other than India for your requirement. And considering the amount of installation for 100 gigawatt that is required, we are currently at 8.5 gigawatt. So there is a huge demand that is going to be there. So to mitigate that in terms of highest technology, lowest cost, best engineering, best quality, we should be able to create that infrastructure within India. And going forward, I feel that India stands at a very big advantage because China has become a developed country or more or less. So the costs of manpower, the costs of managing and operating out of China have become phenomenally high. So labor costs have gone up, regulations have gone up, and it's difficult to now manage with that kind of costs and still be a viable business. So India stands to gain in that, and I think it's an opportune time to harness this.
And one of the important things for manufacturing is R&D. At Vikram Solar, how do you lay emphasis on it, and how do you innovate basically?
So we fundamentally don't do any mainstream research. We do a lot of applied research. Our CTO and his team of solar R&D graduates and engineers, they come up with ways and means to improve the product efficiency and to be at par with the global expectation. And that's the reason why we've been able to succeed. The reason is that when you sell a single solar panel, you are guaranteeing, you're warranting, output, for the panel for 25 years. That's a very big commitment. So to ensure that, we make it our job to work with the best materials and keep innovating to ensure that the customers and the developers get the best product.
And skilled manpower is also an issue. Are you also working with academia and all to have those kind of skill sets imbued into people earlier?
So Prime Minister Modi's 3S, scale, speed and skill. Within that, skill has been a very important initiative where the National Skill Development Council has been initiated to take on different industries and then go deep dive into them, work with the industry and the academia and build skill development programs to empower vocational training and other sorts of training. I'm a part of one such council which is created for solar, and we're doing a lot of new things there. When industry interfaces with the academia and then creates programs, it really acts as a push to empower the new youth and the upcoming fresh graduates and everybody to skill themselves and be ready for the industry. And that is it's a start, but it's happening in a good way.
One of your marquee projects has been the 10 kilowatt, India's first floating project at Rajarhat in Kolkata itself. What were the challenges in that project, if you can dwell a little light on it, and the potential of having such solar installations on water?
So it was a very interesting project for us because we were asked to develop indigenously the complete technology of floating solar and then deploy it. 10 kilowatt is a very small amount, but to be able to do it departmentally and be able to, with our young engineers, and deploy it has been a very satisfying process for us. The whole project took almost 4 to 5 months and it was funded by MNRE, and we were able to showcase that without any foreign collaboration or anything, we are able to develop such projects, and so thankfully it is still floating, so we're okay there.
Yeah. So finally, now Vikram Solar has been around for 10 years, spread all across India into various projects, from the first floating to the first solar airport in India. So what is your aim, and how do you see the future panning out?
The future is very bright. Having said that, I feel that we need to work on latest technologies, quality initiatives, and manufacturing, which is obviously we have discussed that. But these are the three things which have to form a basis to drive the solar mission successfully, which Mr. Modi has set out. I think solar energy is here to stay. It is free, it is abundant, and it is available for all of us. We should make use of it, and we should, in turn save the world from climate change.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Ganesh, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.